Signal. So employees are the most powerful yet underutilized marketing asset. In this session, Dynamic Signal CMO Ajay Ramachandran will moderate a session featuring experts who are turbocharging their brands with the help of their employees who create great content, drive leads, revenue, and increase reach and awareness. Ajay will be joined on stage by Brian Jones, VP of North American Marketing for Dell, Christopher Swan, Head of Internal Communications, LinkedIn, Sharon Cross, Global Online Marketing, Social Media Manager at Hitachi Data Systems, and Richard Moran, CEO of Creative Solutions. Please give a big hand for Ajay.
Thanks for joining us today. Can everyone hear us okay? Yeah. Cool. So my name is Ajay, and the easy way to remember that is a rhyme. A guy named Ajay. So I expect every one of you to get it right after the talk. All right, so I'd love to introduce my esteemed panelists here. I'm going to have each of them describe a little bit about their backgrounds and what employee advocacy means at their respective companies to level set and give you a sense of how they're approaching this wonderful opportunity. Chris, why don't you start?
Sure. So Christopher Swan, LinkedIn, and a little bit about myself too, as I lead the internal communications organization for LinkedIn. As we're going to start to evolve, and we're in this hyper growth, we have so many employees. So for us, employee advocacy is very important. We're a social organization anyways, so it's close to our heart. We don't even name it advocacy, it's just who we are. So my role there is really to empower and elevate them and our culture.
Great, thanks Chris.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharon Cross, and I run social business for Hitachi Data Systems. And like some of you that may have social in your title or in your job description, I'm still a little bit strange in the organization, so I'm kind of like a Vulcan. I kind of have ears, to prove it. So what I'm doing is I'm helping our organization understand a little bit in terms of what it means to be social, what it means for employees to be social, what it means for them to grow their ears bigger. I'm helping lead content. I lead social ambassadors. We have a group of people called the social ambassadors that are kind of our social Vulcans. And I help pretty much mentor the organization in everything social. And that includes things like analytics, content, lead generation, marketing, etc.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Jones. I'm with Dell. I'm responsible for our B2B marketing for North America, and then I also have our Global 500 accounts, so cover a global remit as well. Advocacy and connectedness and employee engagement is a cornerstone of Dell. So Michael founded the company on that direct connection between our technology, our company, our employees, and our customers, whether that's a B2B or B2C connection, because that line is blurring. You're a B2C customer when you log on before you go to work, and when you get to work, you're a B2B, and it just kind of switches back and forth. And so for us, a big part of what we're focusing on as the marketing organization is how do we take advantage of that and really amplify the culture that already exists in Dell to keep that connectedness and to keep that engagement going.
Hi everyone. As opposed to my fellow panelists, I work for the firm that no one has ever heard of. So let me take a second to tell you what Creative Solutions does. My name is Rich Moran. I'm the CEO of Creative Solutions. We have about 1,000 people around the country in 11 offices, and in a nutshell, what we do is a lot of the work in finance and accounting and IT that no one else wants to do. So, for example, what might appeal to this audience is we're doing a lot of work with early stage companies, none of whom wants to do anything related to finance and accounting. We're doing a lot of pre-IPO work in the Valley. So we're doing the pre-IPO work at Twitter, and we did it there, and Roku, and GoPro. So if any of you are thinking about doing an IPO, talk to me after this. And what I have is a different challenge than some of our other panelists, because I have a distributed workforce. I have 1,000 people that I never want to be in the office. I have 1,000 people that I want to be out with clients, and I have 1,000 people that split their allegiance between clients and Creative Solutions. So my challenges are a little bit different. And what happens in the Detroit office, of course, is going to be a little different than what happens in the Silicon Valley office. So I've got social media kinds of problems that other firms don't have that I'm sure we'll be talking about during this panel.
Cool. Thanks, Rich. So to get things kicked off, how did each of you get started with employee advocacy, or more importantly, how did your companies get started with employee advocacy? Where did it begin? Was it a top-down initiative from the social executives in your company saying, this is a good thing, thou shalt share on social media? Or was it more of a grassroots happening where employees just bubbled up and started to become kind of social media superstars? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. I know, Chris, you have some perspectives on how LinkedIn's doing it with the millennials, so I'd love to hear that.
Sure. I mean, I think for us, that's who we are. Yeah, I said this earlier too. We're a social organization, so we come from. So everybody is just social instantly when they're part of LinkedIn. Now that doesn't also mean though that everybody's sharing easily. There's still work behind the scenes. So getting started for us was really, I think, a little bit more of our grassroots. But grassroots is still different than what we might think of like a older organization that's really like employees are starting something to convince their leadership. Our leadership is already there. Our founder, our CEO, they're already doing that. So it's like set by example. With our different organization or employee engagement, we have a lot of millennials, but we also have people, I always tell them, it's like, oh, so I got there. I'm not a millennial. So I get there, and so how do you engage me? So we're starting to find different ways to do that as well. So I think that is, it's starting to shape. So it's grassroots, but now we're starting to have to figure it out a different story.
Interesting. So it really started kind of from within the organization, employees really just volunteering. And of course, LinkedIn with its tools and all of the capabilities to share status updates, it was just easy enough for employees to participate and kind of start sharing content.
Absolutely. We, of course, it's always been encouraged as well.
Yeah.
So it's never been don't do it, but here's how to do it. So I think so. That's why I say grassroots is a little bit different for us. It was, of course, we would do this. Why wouldn't we?
Right. And so did you ever provide employees guardrails or any kind of guidance on what they should do or shouldn't do?
Absolutely. We do have some guidelines to it as well, as most organizations do. And we talk about really, being transparent, authentic, all the words that we kind of hear, from so many organizations. We take it to heart, though. We really are very transparent internally and externally. So as we start to grow, in our hypergrowth, I interviewed back in April a year ago, we were like 3,800 people, and there were over 5,000. So as we're growing so quickly, we need those guardrails in place, telling employees where to go and what to share.
Right.
So I think that's really helped us as well, especially as we bring in, a different employee base.
That's great. It's really exciting to hear that kind of it's built into, as you put it earlier, into the DNA of the company and part of everything that you guys do. I'd love to hear from Brian about Dell, who really have been one of the pioneers in this whole space, starting with various employee advocacy and engagement initiatives, probably as far as 10 plus years back, I'd imagine, yeah. So Brian, can you share a little bit about what Dell is doing today and versus how it got started?
Yeah, so again, if you go back to the way the company was founded, the way Michael envisioned the company was that direct connection to the consumer, right? And so it started kind of day one with just the culture that Michael created. Pre-LinkedIn, pre-Twitter, pre any of the tools, we were running things like Employee Storm, which was an ability for any of the employees in the 100,000 plus organization to basically submit ideas on how can we connect with customers better, how can we save money, how can we be more aggressive in this area or more conservative in a certain area. So Employee Storm was something we did internally. We also then extended that to the external piece too, right? So we had Idea Storm. So Idea Storm was really kind of a first crowdsourcing of, hey, you're a customer or a prospect at Dell. How do you feel about your interactions with the company? How do you feel about the way you do business with us? Quality problems, not great quality, whatever it was. We gave them all these passes forward. And so then bringing it back to present day or in the last 5 or 6 years, as more of the tools in the ecosystem and then this thing called social media got created, right? We built something called SMAC, which is our social media advocacy and training organization that works on a global basis. And so they run something called SMAC University. And so any employee can sign up for a SMAC U course and get training on social media and Dell. And we essentially underline the entire SMAC U environment, so you asked about guardrails, by essentially one thing, which is don't do dumb things. But other than that, we pretty much turn them loose and want them to go out and innovate in this space, because I think the biggest thing about advocacy and connectedness is the power you get from your employees and the power that they bring and the creativity they bring and the innovation they bring. And so we really go out of our way to not put a lot of parameters around it, which terrifies older, more traditional companies. So when I speak with customers or prospects about these initiatives that we have, they're like, well, where's the big manual and the big rule book? And I'm like, hey, there's really like 5 rules, and then you got to kind of just turn them loose and hope for the best, right? Create a culture and then turn them loose, and they will find their way, right? And to date, we've had a really good success in driving it that way.
Fantastic. Rich?
Well, I think what's implicit in all of this is to understand the demographics of your own organization. So in a creative solutions situation, we are basically finance and accounting and technical people, not a group that's prone to do social things. The firm is 70% women and the average age is 40. So put all of that together, and this is a group that's pretty reticent to stick their necks out there in any social way. So so the barometer becomes me as the leader. So I stick my neck out there, which makes it okay for the rest of the group to talk, to be an advocate. So we were talking about this before, but I'm an influencer on LinkedIn, and what I put out there really has a bearing on what happens in the entire organization and how willing the rest of the organization is to become an advocate. Because I need all of our people to sell. We don't have a direct sales force, so all of our people also need to be salespeople, and this is the way that they do it.
That's great. So they really are kind of becoming social sellers. Now, are you starting to do that with content and thought leadership? How does that factor in?
Where they are set, you have to understand where that group is safe also. So this group is not going to be safe talking about lessons I've learned from Justin Bieber. This is a group that's going to be safe talking about Black-Scholes and and how it affects the stock price on flux capacitors. It's going to be pretty technical on the content side.
Right. So they come across as subject matter experts and thought leaders in the industry.
And that's what our clients want them to talk about.
Got it. That's great. Sharon.
So speaking on behalf of the older traditional, when you think of Hitachi, you're probably not thinking of the open the kimono type of culture. So if you think you got a rough culture, come and see me. So for us, it was really challenging, very, very challenging to get people who said to me, Sharon, I'm really excited about going big and social. Like, I'm going to talk, but we're not going to listen. We're not going to answer any questions. We're not going to engage because that would be really scary for us. So we had to start from this kind of a real barrier and grow to where our millennials and our other folks are going. And that was a huge challenge. So we started out by finding the people who were hip because they were in social, and giving them incentives, awards, and mostly mentorship to be what we call social media ambassadors. So this is a really important thing for us, is to identify those people. And I think the biggest mistake that I made in terms of managing that program is to call it like a social media club, and to say this is not necessarily part of your role, it's something that's exciting for you, that's a club. And it quickly became very evident that without saying that this is part of your job, that being an ambassador is in your job description, that there are rules and regulations, those are important things. And by calling it a club at the beginning, I think was a little bit rough. Now it's an official program. Now we have hundreds of people that are part of that program. Now we don't just have training, but we have mentorship, and that's really important for us. So in terms of getting started, setting the guidelines, segmenting your audience and putting mentorship programs in place for specific types of ambassadors is really important for us.
That's great. That's sounds like a real investment and a lot of energy and focus going into training people and helping them step up their game. Are you actually measuring what happens as you provide this mentorship and training in terms of activation and engagement in social media?
Happiness in career. I think that's a really interesting measure. So it's not that we're saying, okay, how many times are you sharing? Who are you engaging with? How many times did you sell? But to say to our employees that, being social, being out there, engaging, whether it's face-to-face or online, is so important. So if it's important to your reputation, your career, who you are as a person, to be authentic and relevant and be able to be a thought leader, great. That's the opportunity and the platform that we're going to give you.
That's great. Well, you're really touching on some of the reasons why an employee would want to participate in becoming an advocate for their brand. I think we've all experienced those emails from marketing or our department managers saying, hey, please share this, really important to you, share. And you get those emails all the time, and at least 9 out of 10 times they go into the trash bin, right? They get deleted from your inbox. What's in it for the employee? Like, why should they participate? Why should they care to do this? Sharon, why don't you touch on that since you kind of brought the topic to bear?
Yeah, again, to begin with, it's all about the employee's career, their happiness, their ability to influence, their ability to be subject matter experts, their ability to facilitate communities. So the rewards tend to be very intrinsic.
Intrinsic rewards. Okay, so you're not paying, your employees.
No extra payment, no extra bonuses, no extra games and T-shirts and hats.
You're not running around with a big gong in the office every time an employee shares and putting a spotlight on them. And no, none of that yet. Okay, interesting. Chris, how about you?
So we're doing a couple different things. I think for the first part, I think that's probably the bigger driver in our organization. It's about amazing content. So of course we share content externally, but it's about amazing content and opportunity within LinkedIn. Culture is our number one. I mean, that's what we're focused on. Our number one operating priorities are our employees. We share that openly. And so Sharon mentioned something too about career. So as we focus on career as well, we talk about transformation of self, company, and world. That's our promise to our employees. And so we talk about how important that is, and if employees are being able to share that amazing experience that they have, they're actually transforming themselves. So they're having that clout, that influence, and they can actually track where they're going in their career. So it's helping them do that. So us providing that opportunity is allowing them to do that and helping them tell us if it's working or not. There is something, and we talked about this earlier as well, where this is where it's a little bit more face-to-face, and it started a great conversation with us earlier, where we do have some ambassadors that work for us, that are interns, previous interns that have worked for us, and that will go out. We've offered them a job, and they're going back to campus for a semester or two. So we've asked them to be ambassadors for a few hours while on campus. So that's a little bit different than our normal model. But we've looked at these passionate interns that just like, I want to share the story and I want to be connected to the company until I come back to my full-time job. So we've tried it 2 ways, let's have this great amazing content, career transformation, but also before you get out there, share our story.
Right, that's great. In those cases where the interns are going back and engaging with you guys, but also representing LinkedIn on campus, that's really a job for them.
It is.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you kind of elevated ambassadorship to a paid position, essentially.
It is, and that's the only spot that we're really giving that. We're not doing it on like our customers. We're not going into the social field of that.
Right.
It's more about just passionate play there.
Right. Is that mostly oriented around like talent management and talent acquisition?
It's really talent acquisition.
I see.
And it's specifically campus based, so we're not doing that also to just external engagement with candidates.
Interesting. Brian, what's in it for Dell's employees? You guys have, 20,000 people that have gone through SmackU training?
Over 20,000.
Over 20,000, yeah. It's a huge number of employees that are kind of certified and